Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
Hi, West, it's Only Sport. Martin Devlin, Lachlan Waugh. Every afternoon on the platform, we do a live radio show. It's not a radio show. It's only available across the interweb, the platform. Today, special guest, and you're about to hear the whole interview. Ian Foster. It's weird to say the former All Black coach, but that's exactly what he is. The former All Black coach, 3 weeks after the World Cup final, sat down this afternoon for a good long chat, talking about all kinds of stuff. Regrets from that final, the TMO and the interference, challenges of the last 4 years as coach. Where is New Zealand rugby at right now? Where are we in terms of playing strength? What has Razor got to work with as of next year? Is Super Rugby good enough to prepare our players to play internationals, and that on a continuing basis? What has he loved and loathed most about the job? The Ireland match, was that his greatest triumph as All Black coach? So many questions to ask Ian Foster. The interview will be broken into 2 bits for you, as well as that on the podcast today, Fred de Jong looking back at, I think most of us will probably agree, the best 45 minutes the All Whites have played, certainly under Darren Bazley as head coach. A very creditable 1-1 draw with Ireland. And speaking of things football, Giancarlo Italiano. Chiefy, they call him, the Phoenix coach. We got a lot to do. Let's talk sport. We begin the show, tablets in hand. I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. We welcome another A-League franchise side to Auckland. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Hip hip hooray, it is well underway. New Zealand, that is Auckland, are about to get another A-League side. The Black Knights is the name being floated by owner, creator, Bill Foley. And it is all about Mr. Bill Foley. This club, this side, this franchise will not exist and won't ever have existed without him and his billions. That's the key, money. Because Mr. Foley, bless his heart, doesn't need any, which means he doesn't need the Auckland side to make money. And it won't. That's the reality of it. There is no cash to be made in the A-League. It is a competition underwritten by the individual and collective owners of clubs. It doesn't pay its own way. Unless some economic miracle involving tens of thousands of new fans turning up, an explosion in TV rights deals and vastly increased sponsorship from all quarters suddenly happens, won't ever make money. It won't even cover its own costs. The Phoenix lose money every year. In terms of an actual business model, it's a disaster. Yet that club has been great for football in this country. The academy, the women's team, both such positive developments, but it's also a business. As is the A-League, a professional competition which at some stage you'd think has to pay its own way. And that's its biggest challenge. That and sustaining and maintaining a level of support and interest here in Auckland, because we've had a couple of A-League sides before and it all started off with a hiss and a roar. And then before you know it, there's only 4,000 or 5,000 people turning up and the ground looks empty. That's what happened at North Harbour. That's what happened at Mount Smart. You see, the thing with Auckland is most live sport, aside from the Breakers and the Warriors, is really suffering, with barely anyone regularly attending rugby matches, league matches, netball, cricket, and especially any women's sport. Look, it is always encouraging. It is always something to celebrate whenever we establish another professional sporting side anywhere in New Zealand. Pathways for our young folk, a brand new team to support, all the excitement and the energy and attention that then brings. So I say good on you, Bill Foley. Thank you, and welcome to New Zealand. And welcome this new football team of yours. Exciting news, exciting times. And the best thing about it being because of Bill's billions, it won't ever have to achieve any kind of bottom line.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
Lachlan Sports News headlines.
Yeah. Excuse me. Fair bit actually going around. I'll start off with the football this morning. The All Whites played. They took on Ireland and Dublin. Down 1-0 in the first half, and at half-time that was the score. Though Matthew Garbett, the Kiwi forward, scoring an equaliser in the 59th minute for New Zealand, who responded pretty damn well to Ireland's opener by Adam Ida in the first half. They came out in the second half and actually played really well. A lot of good go forward. Pretty exciting on the ball. There's a lot of ambition in the way they played. I was actually quite happy with how they performed. So good result for the All Whites in the end this morning, 1-1 against Ireland. Sail GP won't be heading to Auckland next year. Sail GP will work to find a new venue to host its planned regatta in New Zealand in March of 2024. They decided not to stage the event in Auckland as planned. Tātaki Auckland Unlimited today announced that the Worldwide Foiling League's decision, noting the unavailability of Wynyard Point land as a spectator facility was a sticking point in holding the event in Auckland. So obviously Auckland Unlimited said we can't use that point as a spectator spot, excuse me. And Sail GP were like, no, we have to have it as an area for fans to watch.
It's just typical of everything to do with Auckland, the council, everyone that's involved.
So why can't they allow this one spot to be a spectator spot?
It's just a one-off. How difficult is it? I mean, weigh up everything else that's going on here.
Yeah.
International sport, cameras, free tourism video. They're stinking rich, these sailor boys. They'll pay for everything. I mean, what does it take? A bit of fencing?
Really strange.
A little bit of a tidy up?
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about an area where people love to go in Auckland anyway. It's in the summer. You know, Jacinda cocked up the whole of the America's Cup by throwing us back into lockdown when that final was going on. Here's an opportunity to showcase Auckland, to get people out in the sun. Isn't that what you want? Families wandering around down that part of Auckland. Use it for something. It's not being used for anything.
Agree.
Yeah. Well, who are the people that sit around and say, can't have that, no, it's sport, can't have that, no, it's progress, can't have that, no.
The Fun Police, that's who they are. Super Rugby news. The Blues have bolstered their coaching staff for next year, enlisting former All Black scrum coach Greg Feek. He'll be joining. That's a good addition for the Blues. Transgender women will not be allowed to compete in international women's cricket. The sports governing body has announced, the ICC, saying that the new gender eligibility regulation had been imposed to protect the integrity of women's cricket and was also made on safety grounds. Sri Lanka are free to compete internationally, but next year's Under-19 Cricket World Cup will now be hosted by South Africa, as the International Cricket Council confirmed the terms of suspension of Sri Lankan cricket. Sri Lanka's membership of the ICC was suspended with immediate effect for government interference on the 10th of November after Sri Lanka's Ministry of Sport dismissed SLC's board and replaced it with an interim committee. Oh, jeez.
And this is a bit like the IOC punishing Russia and making them wear different tracksuits to the Olympics. So you suspend them, but they can still play.
Yeah.
Sorry. When you get suspended, you don't turn up. You're not allowed to. That's the point of the suspension, isn't it?
You'd think. And finally, another football result this morning. FIFA international friendlies are going on at the moment. Austria took on Germany. Austria are managed by, you know him, you love him.
He and Fritz Frankel, the guy that used to do the football ferns.
No.
Oh.
He took over at Man United, and everyone's like, who the hell is this guy?
Oh, the guy who invented tick-a-tack football.
Yeah, Rangnick.
No one knows who you are, mate.
Yeah. Turns up and Klopp goes, he's the godfather of the Gagan
Then
press.
Guardiola says, he's the guy that taught me. No, he didn't.
And they're all sniggering in the background.
He was coaching a second division German side.
They're all laughing away.
That's why Cristiano said, who are you, mate? Yeah. No one's heard of you, mate.
Well, to be fair, he was right about what needs to change at Man United. Anyway, so he coaches Austria. They've beaten Germany 2-0. Germany are coached by Julian Nagelsmann. He used to coach Bayern Munich. He's a really good young manager, Nagelsmann. But yeah, he's coached now 4 matches for Germany. 1 drew, lost. Not a good start to his tenure as Germany coach. Austria getting that victory this morning. That among many other football results. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin.
Oh, my goodness me!
The platform.
Ian Foster then, former All Black coach. Decent man, really good bloke. Lots of questions to ask, including, does he have any regrets from the time that he has spent doing what is considered to be the toughest job in New Zealand sport? 2 parts to this interview, part 1 now. Ian, thanks so much for joining us as always, mate. 3 weeks or so from the Rugby World Cup final. What have you spent the last 3 weeks doing?
Yeah, g'day, Marty. Just catching up with family. You know, it's good to connect with everyone who's been put a massive amount of support in behind us. So, been travelling around seeing family and now at home and just trying to tidy things up, really.
What do you think now when you look back at the final especially? Do you have any regrets at all?
I regret we didn't get 2 more points.
Yeah.
And I wake up occasionally during the night and keep thinking about how we could have done that. So it's, I think when you come out the wrong side of a tight game, it's a bit of an arm wrestle. You always try to figure things out, but it's, but overall, no regrets. It's always going to be a tough ask on a big stage when you're playing South Africa, and to do it, and then you sort of have a red card to our skip in that 25th or whatever it was minute. That just made things harder. But the more I've thought about it, I'm immensely proud of the way the guys hung in there and gave ourselves a really good opportunity, and we could easily have won it at the end, but it's a credit to South Africa that they did what they did.
That was real All Black rugby, though, wasn't it? I mean, after Sam Cane went off, we actually won on the scoreboard 8-3. Just the determination and the tenacity of our team, especially in that second half.
Yeah, look, I think we got through to half time well, and I think our half time was excellent. I think we really refocused. We knew what we needed to do, and we were very deliberate in our strategy after that, and I think we actually delivered a lot of that on the park. And I think it's, we knew we had to be patient. We knew we didn't have to try to risk too much and sort of get further behind. We had to make sure we controlled situations, but when we did get our opportunities, we had to get excited about it. And I think the fact we did create a couple of opportunities for try scoring was a credit to the guys, and again on another day it might have got a different way, but that's finals footy, and it didn't. But I think I certainly know the players can hold their head up really, really high for the effort they put in.
You're so philosophical and so gently philosophical about it. I mean, is there any anger or angst at the TMO and the decisions and the fact that World Rugby have now said, we should have, allowed that try and things like that? I mean, how do you get over that stuff?
Well, I sort of went through a process after the World Cup, for the next week or so, whilst I said we were visiting family, I was also putting ref reports in, and, as we normally do, and, particularly like between Joe Smith and myself, we were really questioning a number of decisions, and, as is normal after any game, but particularly after this one, because clearly we felt that there was things that were happening that meant that there was more than one person refereeing that game, and it became pretty constant, the feedback that was coming in Wayne Barnes' ear. So yeah, we're frustrated by that, but it doesn't change the result. But I think for going forward, I think the World Rugby needs to take some learnings from that game.
So goddamn close and so far, eh? I mean, what could you have done differently at all? I mean, one miserable point in the end.
Yeah, well, it was, and it's you can look at some of the controllables, and you keep thinking, well, there's a great Geordie Barrett chip in the first half. Artie ran onto it, the ball didn't bounce his way. We had a couple of goal kicks in that last 20 that didn't go over. I think the World Cup should have finished with a penalty to us on near where Geordie missed his first kick. The Quagga Smith clearly had hands on the ground when he won a ball at a breakdown that didn't get a penalty for, and so the drama of having a 48-metre penalty to finish a World Cup, that wouldn't have done anyone's nerves any good anyway. So look, there's a whole lot of what ifs, but that's what we've always said. World Cups are unique, and you look back at 2011, for example, where we had won a really tight game against France, 8-7, and people forget about how tight that game was. They just remember the victory, and I think that there were cries for penalties from the French in the last part of that game.
Yeah, yes, there were.
And so, am I philosophical? I guess I am about it, but what I've learned is that I'll never get over it, I don't reckon, Marty, to be fair, because it hurt. But there's no point us carrying around a whole bunch of anger about it either, because it doesn't change the facts. So, and we just got to acknowledge that sometimes what finals are about, there's a bit of drama on all accounts.
I want to go back to that Ireland game as well, though, and just the euphoria after that. That was just glorious. I've never been to a better game of rugby, Foz. So that was just, and going in there not knowing as well, and then it's just seeing the way that we played and beating a team that was the best team in the world going into that tournament, and they will be feeling probably the same way that all of us are feeling now, regretting that game as much as the South Africans in the final.
Yeah, I think so. I think, in some ways, I was asked about it, about what it's like going into as an underdog, and All Blacks aren't normally like that in that quarter-final, but it felt very similar to 2019 because if people cast their mind back and we played Ireland in the quarter-final and they'd been the world number one that year again and beat us the year before, so we actually had a good preparation for 2023 because we knew that we'd known for a long time that as long as we could beat Italy, there was a good chance we're going to get out of our pool and our quarter-final was going to be Ireland or South Africa. And so everyone knew that. So we'd been preparing for that particular game for a long time. And I think, it was a game that our plan came off really, really well. And, it's a game I think we probably could even have won by more in many ways, but mate, it was a tense game, and Ireland showed their quality. But I also thought we didn't go into ourselves. We played the type of game we want to play, and overall, I think when you look at the overall World Cup, you take the French game out of the first game away, and then I think I was pretty proud of the way we played. I think we actually really started to grow as a team and really got our mojo with the type of game we want to play, and that Ireland game certainly reflected that.
Ian Foster with us on the platform. We're always so grateful for your time, mate. Look, I have been speaking for about the last 5, 6, 7 minutes all about what happened then in the past and that, and it's at some stage we all look forward, don't we? But more importantly, you look forward in your life and your career and what happens next for you as well. And has that process started as much as, looking back and kind of re-evaluating everything that happened at the World Cup as well?
Yeah, look, it's... I think as a head coach, you don't move on quickly from World Cups. You got choices to... you got choices, career choices to ponder over and all that sort of stuff. But I know that I put it. I know how much I put into the World Cup. I know that when I went through the year, with kind of the environment we had in New Zealand and all the talk about politics of the behind the scenes of the team and everything, and I've shared this with you before, I really made a decision in that sort of April-May period that I just felt the right thing for the All Blacks for 2023 is that they didn't read any stories about me talking to other countries or other clubs and planning my future. I think the right thing for me to do was simply to focus purely on the World Cup and leave all the decisions for the future to afterwards. And people have a different strategy on that and mindset on it. For me, it was really, really, really important to do that. I think it worked for us. I think the players could see that I was 100% focused on it, and I wouldn't want to change that for anything. So what it means now, I've got to transition into the next stage, I guess, which is clearly I'm still pretty interested in coaching again, and felt I'd finished the World Cup in a strong position in that area, and now we'll just weigh up some options.
Yeah, you're not going to do the Eddie Jones, though, are you? I mean, that's just not you, is it?
Well, ironically, there were some chances to talk to some people before the World Cup, and I won't say who, but it's. But one of the reasons that I didn't want to do that is the very reason that it looked bad when we saw other coaches do it before World Cups. I just don't think it's a good look, and I don't. I'm not never really looked at this job from a job security perspective. For me, it's the All Blacks is something you go and do week on, week out, and you just got to keep growing and keep better. And if you're the right person to be there, you'll stay there.
Would you coach any other international side, or would your best plans now be looking at another club somewhere? And is that outside of New Zealand?
Yeah, look, I can't see me coaching in New Zealand again. Certainly not in the short term. I feel that, I've had a great stint with the All Blacks. It's no surprise to people that haven't kind of seen eye to eye with some of the administrators, and so I'm pretty much at peace that that's kind of it in New Zealand at the moment, and so yeah, I'll look overseas and talking to people overseas, and it's just whether, am I happy to coach the country? Yes, I am. I love the international game. Would I feel comfortable coaching against the All Blacks? No, I wouldn't. And because, I've just put so much into it. So I'm not going to say never, but, right now it's kind of not at the top of my list.
Devlin.
That is a disgusting act.
The platform.
Second part then of Ian Foster, as we spoke to him this afternoon. Good to hear that he is still going to be coaching. We just don't know where yet. Plenty more questions to ask, and I hope you are enjoying this. This is the beauty of what we do on the platform. We get the chance to sit down, do some longer interviews rather than just the kind of the snipey questions and the sound bites that you get across the mainstream media. Ian Foster with us. The breakdown in those relationships, especially with the administration, and what has happened over the last year. I mean, I've always been such a big supporter of yours, and I've loved the fact you've kept your dignity and you haven't actually spoken out against people and things like that. But what does it fill you for? I mean, do you get angry about it? Do you get regretful about it? Do you think it's not fair the way that it was all handled?
Look, again, I actually don't want to go back onto that too much. They're all pretty well documented. I said my piece, and that was that. So, a different pathway was chosen, and for me, I always said at that time it was never about whether I wanted to be coaching the All Blacks in 2024. It was never about that. It was always about what I felt was the right thing for the team in 2023, and I stand by that. And so, but other people saw that differently. So, so that is what it is, Marty. I don't feel bitter about it. I feel disappointed. I believe that I've worked hard for this All Black group to put the team at the front and as the number one priority, and I'm at peace with that.
Ian, where is New Zealand rugby at right now? Where are we in terms of playing strength? And the sub part of that question is, I always ask you 100 questions at once, is Super Rugby as a competition good enough to still prepare our players for international rugby?
Oh, I think, I think it can be, but the Super Rugby competition needs... it needs a massive amount of attention in terms of it's critical for the All Blacks that we have strong Super Rugby clubs, and I think the fact is that we have, but the only way to keep growing those clubs is that we really develop and fine-tune our development system underneath that. I think there's confusion in that area about how we develop our next players. I think we're still seeing that, at that under 20 age group that we haven't nailed that for a decent amount of time, and that's our development program. It's not all about the under 20 team as such, but it's a program underneath that actually gets those players to that point. So that's critical that we find a way through in that area, and we've got to make sure that the Super Rugby is a viable competition, and that our players are playing as much as possible. They're playing teams with a diverse way of playing. And, I think through necessity we got narrowed down a little bit through COVID, and we ended up playing ourselves. And I think it took us the best part of 22 and 23 to actually recover a little bit from that internationally. And and start to get used to playing different styles of rugby again. And so the more we do that, the better. And what the solutions are, I'm not sure, but it's got to be at the top of the tree. And I know the whole governance review that's been done, and obviously I'm assuming it's still being looked at now, are the sort of things it's got to address.
In terms of playing strength, though, with all the players that we've lost, if you were still coaching the team next year, what would you be thinking? Would you be thinking that we're a little light?
Well, if you look at it, someone else asked me that, Marty, and I kind of thought, well, I think we've lost 8 players.
Yeah.
And of the 8, you'd probably say 6 are pretty iconic, aren't they? And, I'm not sure that Lester fills in that position at the moment. He's got a lot of potential, and Shannon's boss is sad he's gone. I'd love to see him come back. But if you look at the Richie Moes, the Sammy Whitelocks, Aaron Smith and all that, you've got some iconic players are going. But the reality is that happens at every World Cup. And I think the number that we've lost this year is probably almost smaller than the last 2 World Cups. And I think that, one thing that's probably gone a little bit unnoticed is if you look at the last 2 years, we've actually brought there's a lot of younger guys come into this team. And if you look at the front row, and you got your Ethan de Groot, Tamati Williams, your Fletcher Newells, Tyrell Lomax, you look at your locks, and underneath, I know we've lost 2 iconic locks, but Scott Barrett's outstanding. You've got Tupou Vai, you've got Josh Lord that have all been exposed the last couple of years. Lucy's Stuart Ardy, Sam coming back. You've got a lot of other loose forwards with Luke Jacobson. The backs with Finlay and Cam are still there. Damien McKenzie, Geordie Barrett, Rico, Mark. You go through the whole list. Caleb Clark, Will Jordan. There's a large part of that team is likely to be there in another 4 years, Marty. And particularly the use of some of that forward pack, I think, is going to be gold, because I think we saw a scrum that actually, for example, became, I thought, the best scrum in the world potentially, and scrum really well against South Africa, and so that I think that holds us in really good stead at the top level for the next period.
A couple more questions, we'll let you go. Again, I always thank you so much for your time. What do you want to be remembered as, and does that really concern you, just in terms of a legacy here after your 4 years?
Well, it does on one count, because I think we've all got a desire to be liked and,
yes,
and for people to remember us fondly. And I try to tell everyone I know that I'm quite a nice bloke.
Yeah, I was just thinking about myself. Yeah, even I actually have that. Even though probably people don't think so. No, it's true. Keep going.
And so we've got that desire, but at the end of the day, it's there's 2 things that matter to me, and one is did I believe I did a good job for the All Blacks? Did I help enhance it? Well, I think I did, and I think there's lots of filters that people look at your campaigns and your period, and they describe it statistically or emotionally or whatever. But there's people that have kind of never wanted me to be an All Black head coach, and they're not going to like me at the end because they didn't like me at the start. So
right.
You're not going to change those minds. But at the end of the day, on its piece, I believe I gave this job everything I've got. I believe our coaching group at the end was fantastic, and if I look at the likes of Joe Smith, Scott McLeod, Jason Ryan, Greg Feek, Andrew Strawbridge, I thought they did an amazing job, and I take a lot of pride in that because I helped grow that. And I think that, and the other thing is the playing group, and the management of the playing group. We were tight, we were united. I think we had to deal with a whole lot of things that perhaps other All Black teams haven't had to deal with over 2 or 3, 4 years. And I thought, and I think everyone could see this was an incredibly tight team that played for each other. And you can't ask for anything more, Marty, to be fair, as a coach. So I'll take that.
Would you have accepted a knighthood if there had been 2 more points at the end of that game?
Well, it's not something that I'm losing sleep over, to be fair. And to be fair, it's the furthest thing from my mind. That sort of stuff is small stuff compared to doing the best thing for this team.
You seem to be in a really good headspace, and I wish you all the very best. This Montpellier story, is there any credit to that or not?
Well, at the moment, I'm enjoying the sunshine of Waikato and looking at a few options, and got my agent coming down to see me tomorrow. So we'll just keep working on things, Marty. But I'm sure you'll
tell you what, the days of Ian Foster on the wing scoring that try in the Ranfurly Shield to win it for Waikato. Did you ever think you had an agent? God, I'm going to have an agent one day who's going to come and see me and discuss options with me.
Yeah. Well, he's got to do something. He hasn't done. He's done stuff all the last 4 years, and so. But to be fair, this is hot off the press. But Andrew Hoare, the hooker Andrew Hoare from Watago, has offered me the head coach of the Maniapoto Maggots, and so it's. So I am considering that, but I'm just wondering about the toll it would take on my body of spending a lot of time with Andrew Hoare. That's all.
All the very best. Hopefully we'll see you on Saturday night. You're going to be speaking at the Phoenix, the doubleheader, yeah?
Yes. I'm in a lounge, been looked after by Scott Couch and the Auckland Stadium people, so I'm looking forward to watching the Phoenix. I'll probably look at the women's game rather than the men's, but But they're going good, and I went down to Wellington last week and watched 2 weeks ago and watched them, and they're a great wee team at the moment, so looking forward to that.
I'll see you on Saturday then at the stadium, and I thank you again so much for your time. All the very best, mate. It's been great dealing with you over these years, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
Well, thanks, Martin. I'm not dead, so we might talk again sometime.
I look forward to it, mate. I really do.
Thanks, Marty.
The Tight Five.
Black Knights, Bill Foley, let's talk about that. We have 5 separate sporting subjects to discuss. When the bell goes, we move on to the next one. Transgender women, for God's sake. Men banned from playing international women's cricket because they are men. Good decision or not, Lachlan? All Whites versus Ireland. Why isn't Chris Wood our captain? I always like Glenn Hoddle on this. He says, select your best player as captain. That's why he made Alan Shearer the captain of England. Replay of Super Bowl 57 yesterday. This was on during the show, Lachlan. I went home and watched it last night. Great result for your Eagles. At 9-1, you are now going to be the top seed in the NFC. I don't think there's any debate about that. Ian Foster, what's his legacy? What does he leave you with? Well, what do you want to hear from him, Lachlan? Let's kick it off, though, with the Black Knights. Now, that is the name suggested by franchise owner Bill Foley. Bill Foley owns the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And he is making a fair fortune because they are Stanley Cup champions. Unlikely, isn't it? An expansion franchise in Las Vegas and they become the Stanley Cup holders. I mean, every single ice hockey side across the border into Canada just must be spewing about this. The most untraditional place to play. But anyway, look, he's done it. He won it. That's all that he has to say. Lachlan, Black Knights as a name. Mm-hmm. In Australia, this name has already been taken by another franchise, not Sporting. Look up blackknight.com.au. Do it on your computer, not mine.
I'm on the work computer. Is this going to get me some sort of virus injected in here?
blackknight.com.au, and then read out what it is. This is live radio, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think we're calling them the Black Knights, ladies. I don't think...
Well, there's a warning that's come up.
Yes.
Black Knight Erotica.
Yes.
Adult content warning. By entering the site, I submit I'm over the age of 18 and I understand that this site contains 18 plus age restricted material, including nudity, sexually explicit images. I am 18 plus.
Okay. Dear leader, where this is...
Oh, it's like peaches and cream. It's a sex shop.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just going to say this is research for the show. Are we allowed to progress further?
Okay. Wait, can I just read out one of the products?
Read it out.
Booby squishy stress ball. Booby squishy stress ball. If you're having a hard day...
Okay, enough. That's it. Okay, you don't need to look at any more, okay? But that is why the team cannot be called the Black Knights.
No.
Let's
they could be
establish that
sponsored by blackknight.com.au.
Well, that makes sense. But yeah, another name, please.
I mean, it's
for
like the
franchise.
Crusaders being, sponsored by peaches and cream. Like, come on. That can't happen.
Are you happy, though, with the idea of a new football franchise? I am, given the fact that you got a guy that's going to underwrite it. Now, let's remember that the Phoenix do not make any money and have never made any money. And they've been in the A-League for, 13 or 14 years now? But they've done a great job for New Zealand football development, women's football, creating pathways for plenty of our young men as well, but they don't make any money. So as a business model, seriously flawed, because Wellington, the group that owns the Phoenix, continually have to underwrite, continually have to put money into that club. Apparently they lose at least $1 million a year, and that's on a good year. The A-League doesn't have any money. It's got no TV deals. It's got no money. So why this guy is so interested, I biggest belief on... I mean, unless he's just a really benevolent guy, he loves New Zealand, and unless, I don't know whether this is, to be able to own as much as he does in New Zealand, maybe there's some clause somewhere that he has to invest or something, I don't know, but thank you very much, Bill Foley, anyway.
Do you want me to give my opinion?
No, I don't.
That whole question that you asked me,
I just
you just
gave you my
answered it
opinion.
yourself. Yeah, okay.
Transgenders, men banned from playing international women's cricket. Is this good from the ICC?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
He's back on the side again, ladies.
No, I just came across a tweet about Sail GP and how Auckland Unlimited locked in the Coldplay concert because of funding that opened up from the Sail GP event being cancelled in Auckland.
Is this a good idea from the ICC?
It is. It's the same with every other sporting body that's really done it, where, look, there's... people, every side of the argument tell you there's science both supporting and not supporting whether men who have transitioned to become women should be playing sport, and it's a moot argument.
It's
because
inexact science.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like this man who's now a woman was rubbish at men's cricket, couldn't get a contract, transitioned to a woman, then decides to start playing cricket as a woman and is going gangbusters, leading the run scoring in whatever competition he was in. He was in. So that in itself to me suggests this is unfair.
No, it's not fair.
So what they've done is the right thing to do, and there's going to be backlash of sorts, but I don't really think there'll be a huge amount of backlash at the same time.
Okay, hear this, and what I'm doing to Lachlan is I've got a finger pointing sideways. Hear this? Oh, maybe I should turn it up. Okay, and then you turn it up and give the finger. Goodbye, all you squealers and ranters and ravers. This is a common sense decision, and it is the right decision. All Whites versus Ireland. We talked about this earlier in the show. Very happy with the second half. Why isn't Chris Wood our captain? He's the best player that we've got. He's the only player playing at...
He's the most experienced. He debuted in 2009, by the way.
I'd make him captain.
I would too.
He's the first name down on every team sheet, isn't he?
He was captain, wasn't he, for a little bit? Now it's Joe Bell.
Mr. Pass It Backwards. Joe Pass It Backwards Bell.
His pass backwards to Nando Pianka. I hope I'm saying the first goal. Well, there was two defenders bearing down on Pianka, so I think that's how you say his name. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing it. I mean, it's a risky pass to play. Then you've got two defenders on you. I mean, he should have cleared it straight over, but still, you don't need to be playing that past Joe Bell, and that's what actually led to the goal. But no, Chris, I mean, he's playing in the toughest competition. He's been playing in that competition for about 7 years now.
Scoring goals consistently.
Scoring double-digit goals in the Premier League for about 4 or 5 straight seasons, apart from the last one. He's been our best player for so long. He's probably the best player of the last, really probably since Ryan Nelson for New Zealand. But even then, there's an argument he could be better than Ryan Nelson.
I think he's better than Ryan Nelson because he's scoring goals, which is harder to do.
So... No, I find it actually really confusing that he's not the captain.
Yeah,
I don't know, and it's more a question than a criticism. What does Joe Bell bring to the table that Chris Wood doesn't?
Yeah. Well, we'll be here till Christmas if we're waiting for an answer to that. Replay of Super Bowl 57 last night. You went home, you watched it again today.
Well,
that Eagles team, okay. I said to you yesterday that you were 8-1. You said fraudulent. We shouldn't have won a couple of games. The thing is that the NFL is a doing league, not a talking league. You take every win because there are some that you're going to gain because you're better. There are some that you're going to gain even though you didn't play that well. The dropsies, as far as the Chiefs are concerned, they've had 26 so far this season, more than any other team. They will fix that, Lachlan. But this is the most impressive stat to me. Patrick Mahomes was 4 for 11 on passes 10 yards and longer downfield. 0 touchdowns, 1 intercept, 4 for 11. That is your defense. I know that they dropped a couple, but that is your defense. Okay? So Take the win. You won at Arrowhead, mate, which no one ever does.
Hold on, what the heck? Your tune's changed. This is what I was saying earlier today, and you're sitting there in the office saying, yeah, but they dropped some catches, yeah, but this and that. I said, what was the final score? We won.
Yeah.
Shush.
Yeah, they'll improve. They won't drop as many
They'll
catches.
improve, but we will as well.
Will
This
you?
is the thing. I've said this all year. Yes, we're 9-1 now, and we're a good team, but we're not as good as what we were showing flashes of last year. I mean, there's no...
We don't want to be that good right now.
Well, no, you don't. But we were good the whole year. But I mean, look, we had an easier schedule last year as well. But it's more that we turn the ball over a few too many times on offense for my liking. Our defense has been good, but we do give up a lot of yards, I guess, within the secondary and the line of scrimmage and that sort of linebacking line. I don't know what the proper NFL term for that is, but it's sort of that middle part of the field, which is why, as you say, when Patrick Mahomes airs it out and goes long, he didn't have any success last night. We're a good team, and if we can build up and start to peak at the right time, that's great. But as I say, there's about 2 or 3 games that we won very narrowly, or the other team is very good
won on
and
one of
didn't
the
turn up
final
on the day.
plays if the guy hadn't dropped the ball.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the NFL. You won it. Park it, pack it, move on to the next round. The All Whites 1-1 with Ireland this morning. First half, we were awful. It really was a game of 2 halves. We looked timid. We got hustled and pushed off the ball too much, conceded a really bad goal. Just didn't look as though we were in the game. Don't know what happened at half-time, but whatever it was said, well, it worked because all of a sudden we started playing. Confidence, got the ball, wanted the ball, started creating chances, got a really good equaliser and could have snatched it. Fred Jong, former All White, with his thoughts. We come out at half-time, Fred, and that's the best 45 minutes I've seen the All Whites play, certainly under Darren Baisley.
Yeah, I thought the second half was much more promising. You know, as you say, for 20 minutes we were under the cosh. You know, the Irish were beating us convincingly down the wings, especially down their left-hand side, our right flank. And but we conceded a very, very soft goal. And then I think towards the back end of the first half and pretty much the whole second half, very, very open game. And I think when games are like that, we've got players that can fill the space and do some quite good things. And we saw tonight Sarpreet Singh showing what he can do when he gets a bit of time and space on the ball.
Yeah, I don't know what the rankings are or how far they're ahead of us or whatever, or whether that's relevant or not. I mean, it's 11 versus 11 when you get on the field. Their team, just in terms of their A team, I mean, obviously they'd rested some players after losing to Holland on the weekend.
Yeah, of course, mate. I mean, the Dutch just pulverised them for a 1-0 submission.
Yes, they did.
But, I mean, this Irish side their track record over the past 2 years has been incredibly poor. You know, the only teams they've beaten in Euro qualifying are Gibraltar. And so they've lost twice to France, lost twice to Holland, lost twice to Greece. So, you know, I think Stephen Kenny is probably not a man who's going to be in the job for much longer. And you can sort of see he's tried to instill like an expansive sort of game where they're trying to pass through the opposition and that. And for 20 minutes at the start of the game, they looked sharp and they looked like they could do it. But as soon as New Zealand started pressing them and then winning the ball in the middle of the park, they looked very, very average. And I think, I think New Zealand did really well to adjust to that. And then the second half was good, and it was just unfortunate we couldn't put away a couple of the chances, a couple of good chances that we had to close out a victory. But all in all, you know, I think, you know, some lessons up front in the first part of the game defensively, and yeah, I think one of the key things for New Zealand going forward is you've got to get Sarpreet, I think, in the middle of the park, where he's way more influential. So, you know, and does that mean we play with 2 holding midfielders and him playing in behind? Because I think at the moment he plays wide and he gets isolated sometimes. But I think that of the match, I think that's probably one of the takeouts where you'd look, if you were being sort of rather critical, I think that's one of the things you'd look at and go, can we do better in that regard?
Yeah, him and Kakachi. I mean, there just seemed to be an athleticism about the two of them, especially in the second half, which, I don't know, they just look better than the rest of the New Zealand players. And it's always difficult, Fred, isn't it? Because, you know, how many minutes are these guys getting? What clubs are they playing for? What is the standard and everything? And then getting them together. I know that, there's no excuse making, but it's never an easy task getting our players together. So it looked to me that maybe if we'd had more of a gallop, I don't know, the game against Greece, maybe another couple of games, just the potential of what we could be seeing.
Yeah, I mean, it's international football, though, isn't it? It's you come together, and that's the gig. You've got to gel a team quickly, and you've got 2 games in every window, and so you need to maximise the opportunity for the players. So that's why probably you don't see as many subs tonight. Trying to give players a chance to play more and more together. But yeah, I think from the All White side of things, it was lovely to score a goal as well, an open play goal, because that was we haven't scored goals, and through that first half we didn't really look like we were going to threaten that much because we were doing a lot of defending. But lovely to score a goal from open play. So ticking quite a few boxes this evening. And it'll be interesting to see which games and what games the New Zealand football can get for the All Whites going forward.
Well, this is all part of the problem as well, isn't it? Because then when it comes to Oceania, Fred, we're expected to walk that tournament. And I know that's no disrespect to those other nations, and we will. We'll beat Fiji 3-1. We might struggle against one of the teams and scuff out a 2. But it's inevitable, isn't it? But it just doesn't, it's not providing whatever we need. And that question is always remaining. How do we continue to get quality competition and regular?
Well, I mean... absolutely. I mean, we won the Nations Cup final 5-0 last time. So, we'll qualify for the World Cup. There's no doubt about that. It's actually, I mean, for New Zealand, it's different. It's very similar. You beat Oceania, but this time you go to the World Cup. I think now it's so disappointing when, given they've expanded the World Cup to 48 teams, like the other day, Argentina lost to Uruguay. And normally that would be, Argentina, maybe struggling a little bit in qualifying. But now it's like 7 of 9 teams in South America go to the World Cup. So many teams are going that qualification for the tournament is irrelevant, basically, right around the world. And so I find that to me is a real negative for the expansion of the World Cup. I mean... Ultimately, New Zealand's got to get out of Oceania. Ultimately, there's no appetite for that at the moment. But you can see Australia have gone on leaps and bounds because every game they play is competitive. So if New Zealand really if they're really serious about improving, you've got to get it. We have to get out of Oceania.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Giancarlo Italiano, a.k.a. Chiefy. He is the head coach of the Phoenix men's side. Took over from Ufuk Talay. He was the understudy to Ufuk. 4 games in. Phoenix looking pretty damn good this year. What is the goal of the club long term in your mind?
Well, I think long term, the goal from a results perspective is to win the league, but it's to win the league with a sustained amount of players that come through our academy, and then on top of that, bringing in Kiwi talent that we feel is up to the standard that we can build on over a long cycle, and then on top of that, the other goal is for those players that have the opportunity to go abroad and reach higher heights, that we aid in that process, right? So if we're producing players that are good enough for Europe, we're doing equally as good if we don't win the league per se.
This season, 2 wins, 2 losses. So how do you assess where you're at in your form going into the break before, obviously, the international break, and now we play in Auckland in the doubleheader this weekend?
I've been genuinely pleased with the progress the team's made. If you told me at the beginning of the season we'll be, undefeated, and we've had 2 wins and 2 draws against, quality opponents, I would have taken it. I just think it really comes down to the amount of work that we've done in the pre-season. We've changed a lot of focus on how we train the boys, and we've had I think a more solid defensive foundation this season, and we've been able to build on a lot of the good things that we did over the last 4 years as well, but obviously with a different bit of focus, and I think it's all coming relatively well at the moment.
Giancarlo with his Phoenix coach. As I said, it's a doubleheader this weekend, both the men's and women's teams playing at Mount Smart. Under Ufuk, it's a different role for you. So how has it changed being the head coach as to being an assistant? What are the major things that you've noticed?
I mentioned this before in previous interviews that I've had. I've been asked the same question. I think the dynamic changes where, in terms of the relationship with the players. When you're the assistant, you're more of a almost like a counsellor. You're more vested in the day-to-day activities of the players, and they give you sometimes information that otherwise the head coach wouldn't get. So it's more of a mentoring sort of role, whereas the head coach is more about, messaging and the more holistic approach. So there's a bit more of a detachment, I would say, to be a bit more objective in the way you do things. But at the same time, I really haven't changed that much from being an assistant. I let my assistant now try to do all the things that I used to do last season, and I think it's working well in that respect.
Is it physically more work? By that I mean, does it take up much more time during the week?
Yes, it's a pretty full-on role. The thing is, I could have done probably the easy thing and carry on what we were doing for previous years and made my workload a lot easier. But the fact that I've changed the style and just the dynamic and even just training, it's very intensive in terms of planning, making sure everything is looked after in terms of design of the sessions and how we do our analysis. And I think I can safely say that my first day off was last week. I haven't had a day off since, but to be fair, I enjoy it. I like coming into work all the time and constantly, making sure that what I'm doing is not by fluke. There's a process, and that I'm basically across everything.
Have you talked to Ufuk much at all?
We talk occasionally. We're still very good friends, and we have a very good relationship. So I was really happy that he had a job at Sydney, and he's going to do very well with that team.
I want to go back to you saying that sometimes you get results when you're not playing well. The Melbourne victory's one of those, isn't it? Without a shot on goal, a 1-1 draw, and then the VAR could have given us a penalty to actually win that game.
Well, it depends how you look at it, Martin. Sometimes definition of playing well, I think a lot of people categorise playing well as always playing well with the ball. But for 50% of the time, or for majority of games, defending is a large component. So I thought, on that respect, we, apart from maybe a 5-10 minute period in that first half where we allowed shots in our box, I felt as though, especially in the second half, they didn't really get in behind us. Just that one time where they had that VAR penalty waved away for simulation. I feel as though we were in control defensively with the ball. Maybe not the best, but in large part that had to do with one, the heat, two, the travel, and I think as well, once we changed our shape in the second half, was more to take those conditions into effect. I felt as though we kind of lost our way going forward, but I was still very, very happy with the. I was still very happy with the performance. I was very happy with the output. Would I have liked to have created more shots? Potentially. I mean, it would have been nice. But I think upon our review when we came back that week after, once we analysed everything, we're actually quite happy with the chances that we made. It was more about just that last touch, or just the right run, or the opportunity to play into those areas that we could have hurt them.
You're the calmest person that I have ever seen react to a VAR decision that didn't go your way. You're always that calm?
I try to stay level-headed for the game. Look, I think the reaction for me is, it doesn't matter how I react. It's not going to change your decision. I've learned that over the years. The referee. I've yet to see a referee change his mind when things happen. So they're ultimately out of my control. So if I overreact or if I feel like I'm a little bit too animated, the only bad effect from that is that the players see that, and then that gives them an excuse also to act in an improper manner. So I feel like being level-headed also keeps the head on my players evenly.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.